What's up, deckheads? It's October, which means it's socially acceptable to wear leather out in public. Children are now encouraged to take candy from strangers, and we've all had the biggest scare of our lives, looking at our bank account balances after the end of the autumn Steam sale. And let's not forget the October Humble Choice bundle. I've tested all this month's games on my Steam Deck to tell you whether it's worth your cash or just plain trash. Make sure to keep an eye out for the winner of last month's Steam Key giveaway. Want one of the keys showing on screen? Just post a comment. I'll select my favourite comment and announce the winner in next month's video. Humble does region lock some of the keys. These are the regions that the V-Rising key can be used in. Okay, grab a pumpkin, stick your deck in it, and let's get started. Atomic Heart kicks off October's bundle with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the skull, and I mean that as a compliment. It drops you into a retro-futuristic 1995, where the USSR is thriving, technology reigns supreme, and you're constantly wondering whether you accidentally installed Bioshock 3. The opening hour is mostly an indulgent world-building tour, flying cars, pristine robot butlers, and propaganda so thick you could spread it on toast. It's gorgeous on the OLED deck, running at a steady 75 frames per second in handheld out of the box with 2.5 hours of battery life, which is understandable for such an intense visual showcase, but still on the short side. To get the most out of the deck experience though, you definitely want to use gyro and trackpad. Once the inevitable AI uprising begins, the whole thing turns into a stylishly deranged fever dream of chrome, communism, and chaos. The main character, Sergei, is a bit of a jerk. His dry, sarcastic commentary and constant verbal sparring with his talking glove make for a weirdly entertaining double act. The game peppers in a memorable cast even within the first hour, from Xena, Warrior Granny, to a smutty upgrade station that would make a sailor blush. But be warned, the scanner tutorial is misleading. I had to resort to YouTube to figure out that double tap and hold was what the game actually wanted me to do. Gameplay-wise, it's a mashup of gunplay, skills, and hold RB to hoover up loot like a Russian Luigi. Melee hits thud with satisfying crunch, and the sense of dread builds up fast. I initially wondered which game in this month's lineup would fill the October horror quota. Turns out, they went a more subtle route this year. Well played bundle, well played. Between the sterile environments and the atomic cold-eyed androids, Atomic Heart keeps you uneasy even when nothing's attacking. Ammo is scarce, enemies are unpredictable, and the camera system adds a stealth layer that's equal parts tense and annoying, but in a good way. Atomic Heart feels like a rare hybrid, a gorgeous, grim, and surprisingly funny sci-fi horror first-person shooter that just works on deck. The visuals pop, the gyro controls help tighten aim, and it feels impressively optimized for handheld play. It's creepy, it's weird, and it's exactly the kind of game that makes you say, what the hell did I just play, right before booting it up again. V-Rising is what happens when someone plays Diablo, watches Castlevania, and says, what if I just build a mansion instead of saving the world? You play as a freshly awakened vampire, trying to claw your way up from weak bloodsucker to castle-owning overlord, and it's a surprisingly addictive loop. The mix of ARPG combat and base building works better than it has any right to. You'll spend your first hour figuring out crafting, fighting off wolves, and avoiding sunlight like a gamer at a beach party. No sparkly vampires here, sunlight burns as it should. The gameplay loop is simple but deeply satisfying. Hunt down V-Blood bosses, drink their mystical essence, and unlock new powers. The kind of dark progression system that makes you say, just one more victim until your battery's dead. Each boss offers new abilities that genuinely change how you play, such as transforming into a wolf. Between battles, you'll be scavenging materials, building your gothic dream home, and micromanaging a crafting system that feels both rewarding and needlessly fussy. On the deck, it controls like a twin-stick shooter, and while navigating inventories without a mouse takes some adjustment, it's never frustrating. Performance-wise, V-Rising is smooth as cold blood, hovering between 50 and 60 frames per second in handheld, with around 3 hours of battery life, which is impressive given the scale of the world. The OLED screen really makes the atmosphere pop, especially when night falls and you're skulking through forests or sneaking into villages for a midnight snack. The only real issue is how easily you can get distracted. 1 minute you're raiding a bandit camp, the next you're rearranging your coffin placement for optimal feng shui. V-Rising is the kind of game that quietly eats up entire weekends without you noticing. Whether you're obsessed with min-maxing your castle's architecture, or just want to drain peasants in style, it's an incredibly solid deck experience, surprisingly comfortable for a PC-heavy title. If you've been craving a vampire game that lets you be both monster and interior designer, this one's worth sinking your teeth into. Enjoying the video so far? Tap the like button, subscribe, and turn notifications on so you never miss out on watching me play with my deck. System Shock 2023 is proof that sometimes you really can teach an old rogue AI new tricks. A full remake of the 1994 classic, it's equal parts nostalgia trip and lesson in how punishingly hard games used to be. The setting is as eerie as ever. A derelict space station run by Shogun, a murderous AI who treats humanity like expired milk. It nails the claustrophobic, clinical horror vibe perfectly, making it another solid Halloween pick for this month. I hope you've got a safe word ready, because this game does not believe in aftercare. Having played System Shock 2 back in the day, revisiting this series feels a bit like coming home. If your home was full of corpses, malfunctioning bots, and a psychotic computer whispering sweet nothings in your ear. The remake modernizes just enough. Crisp lighting, atmospheric detail, and a UI that feels functional without betraying its roots. The puzzles are brutal. They don't care if you're tired, distracted, or missing a few brain cells. You will sweat. Combat, too, is unforgiving if you rush in unprepared. It's got that very 90s sense of satisfaction, the I finally beat that hallway after dying 6 times kind. Performance on the deck is actually better than expected, provided you tweak the settings. Out of the box on medium, the frame rate is all over the place, but if you drop everything to low, you'll get a buttery 90 frames per second in handheld with minimal visual sacrifice. Battery life lands around 2 hours and 20 minutes, which does seem a little short for a game originally made in the 90s, even if it is a remake. Gyro aiming or trackpad controls make a huge difference. Just make sure you toggle crouch, or you'll feel like you're doing thumb yoga every time you sneak. The security level system adds a clever sense of progress. Take out enough cameras, and the station feels just a little less oppressive. System Shock 2023 is a reminder of why this series inspired games like BioShock and Prey in the first place. It's haunting, challenging, and smartly reimagined for modern players without sanding off the retro rough edges. That said, some newcomers might find it a bit stiff compared to today's smoother shooters. For old fans like me though, it's a nostalgic gut punch, and that proves Shodan still reigns supreme as gaming's most elegant psychopath. Story of Seasons, Pioneers of Olivetown is like visiting a cozy Airbnb cottage, only to realize you've stayed at almost the exact same cottage 100 times before. Plant crops, raise animals, get all chummy with the locals, and pass out face first in the field when you use up all your stamina. Welcome to Deja Vu. Population, you. It's not that Olivetown does anything wrong, it just doesn't do anything new. Getting it running on the deck takes some tweaking. The game flat out crashed on launch with the current, experimental, and even all the GE Proton builds I could throw at it. But after a lot of trial and error, I found success using the current version of Proton hotfix. Once set up, it performs beautifully. Locked at 90 frames per second in handheld, with around 4 hours of battery life, which is impressive for a title that technically doesn't even have official deck support. The only real catch is you'll need to manually summon the on-screen keyboard. A small but annoying reminder that simple quality of life functions are not common sense. Gameplay-wise, it's business as usual. You start with a rundown farm, repair buildings, plant seeds, and unlock new crops by discovering and shipping wild plants, one of the few fresh touches in the genre's well-trodden soil. Skill leveling returns, rewarding repetitive effort, while the familiar stamina bar keeps you from living your best workaholic life. The farming mechanics remain charmingly clunky. Targeting tiles feels like guessing where your hoe might land after 3 drinks, both the tool and the person. And yes, the B button is the main interaction key, which feels wrong every single time you press it. That said, Olivetown is undeniably cozy. The art style, soft colours, gentle outlines, and idyllic landscapes makes every day feel like a watercolor painting. The music hums along pleasantly. The villagers are all impossibly kind, and the close-up chat camera lets you get real personal with your next waifu or husbando. It's the digital equivalent of a warm blanket. Predictable, safe, and soothing, even if you can't shake the feeling you've worn it 100 times before. If you're looking for innovation, this isn't it. But if you just want to unplug, plant turnips, and flirt with the locals, Olive Town still does the job just fine. Cryptmaster is what happens when a first-person dungeon crawler gets drunk at a Scrabble tournament. It's weird, witty, and wonderfully unhinged. A black and white fever dream where you type words to cast spells, solve riddles, and occasionally wonder what substances the devs were on when they designed it. On the Steam Deck, it boots up with a passive-aggressive warning that it's better played with a keyboard, which is both accurate and fair. You can technically play it with the deck controls, but I guarantee you'll end up mashing buttons like a caveman before realizing, like I did, that pressing A brings up the in-game keyboard. The premise is simple. Words are power. Your character starts with no memory of their skills, so you must guess them based on clues hidden in the environment or doled out by your sarcastic undead companions. Type HIT and you smack enemies. YELL and suddenly your bard belts out a tune. It's a genius system. Part puzzle, part vocabulary test, and part existential comedy about the absurdity of English. Every correct word feels like you've outsmarted the game, and every wrong one gets you roasted by your ghoulish guide. It's like playing Wheel of Fortune with dead people, and trust me, everything is better with dead people. Style-wise, Cryptmaster oozes cool. Its monochrome aesthetic looks like a Tim Burton sketchbook brought to life, complete with sharp contrasts and grotesque little character designs. The voice acting is top tier. Every character sounds distinct and hilarious, with the Ratmen sporting Aussie accents that caught me completely off guard in the best way. The writing leans hard into dark humour, with jokes about everything from desecrating altars to refunding the game on Steam because you're an imbecile. It's rare to find a game that's genuinely funny without trying too hard, but Cryptmaster nails that energy effortlessly. Performance-wise, it's solid. On deck, it runs between 42 and 60 frames per second in handheld, with around 2.5 hours of battery life, which is short, but the game is graphically intense despite the monochromatic palette. Battery aside, the game's slow pace and light visuals make it ideal for portable play. And honestly, there's nothing else like it in this month's bundle, or perhaps any past bundle. Cryptmaster is bizarre, bold, and brimming with personality, proof that creativity isn't dead. It's just been buried in a dungeon, waiting for you to type DIG. Seemingly unassuming at first, this one's an easy winner for the Grower Not a Shower award. Shogun Showdown is a turn-based roguelite strategy game that blends meticulous planning with heart-pounding action, making it a standout experience on the Steam Deck. Each turn in Shogun Showdown gives you a wealth of choices. Step forward or back, rotate, add a tile to your queue of up to 3 actions, execute your queued actions, or wait. The brilliance lies in the game's transparency. Each enemy's planned action is displayed, allowing you to strategize accordingly. You can rearrange or remove tiles from your queue without triggering enemy actions, giving you complete control over your prepared approach. The interplay between your tiles, their cooldowns, enemy positions, and upcoming threats creates a strategic puzzle that's endlessly engaging. Character movement abilities, like pushing enemies, add another layer of tactical depth. After each level, you'll be rewarded with an upgrade for one of your tiles, enhancing your abilities with shorter cooldowns, stronger attacks, and even abilities like cursing or freezing your enemies. Boss battles up the stakes and reward skulls, which can be spent to unlock more options in shops during your current and future runs, or add tiles to the pool for future attempts back at camp after you inevitably fall in battle. These mechanics ensure that every defeat feels like a step forward, even as you're drawn into the just one more run loop. The game's native controller support shines on the Steam Deck, with controls that are both intuitive and uniquely suited to the tactical gameplay. Performance is flawless at a locked 90 frames per second in handheld, and with a battery life of 4 hours on the OLED deck. With an average playtime of 14.5 hours, Shogun Showdown offers a wealth of content for strategy enthusiasts. Its balance of precision, creativity, and replayability makes it a must-play for anyone who enjoys turn-based tactics. On the Steam Deck, it's a perfect fit for both quick bursts of gameplay and longer, more contemplative sessions. If you're looking for a game that rewards careful planning and quick thinking, Shogun Showdown is a masterstroke of tactical design. It's time to announce the winner of last month's Steam Key giveaway. There were so many good comments that it was really hard to pick a winner. I had to pick Red Gangman's Avenger 5911, who not only recently discovered the joy of playing with a deck, but agrees just how good it is to go raw dog with it, to the point that they're willing to take the risk of using it unprotected. Believe me, I've struggled with that internal conflict before, and I do agree that no sleeve on the deck does feel better. But when your deck's livelihood is at stake, you have to use protection. Hopefully you won't be going too hard with your deck as you go through some of Persona 5 Royal's after-school activities. Congrats on winning! Make sure to start a chat with the Reddit user Deckisheaders to claim your key. Hotel Renovator is less Extreme Makeover Hotel Edition and more Extreme Patience Steam Deck Edition. When you first boot it up, it defaults to epic graphics settings, which is like expecting to have a civil argument on Reddit that ends with the other person saying, "You are right." Drop the graphics to low though, and you can squeeze out a semi-playable 35 to 45 frames per second in handheld with around 3 hours of battery life. It's not great, but it's stable enough to let you start your new life as a one-person housekeeping department with a dream. The first few minutes set the tone. Janky menus that only half recognize controller input, text small enough to make you feel overdue for an eye exam, and a tutorial that plays on the wrong screen like the game's actively trolling you. The assistant selection UI might as well have been designed by a sadist. Up and down to navigate both vertically and horizontally on a 2x2 grid, because that makes sense. You'll even need to invoke the mouse just to start the game. If there's a hidden Renovate the UI side quest, I'm still yet to find it. Once you're actually in, the core gameplay loop could be fun, if it didn't feel so tedious. Every task is slow and finicky, with the exception of the broom, which you hold like it's about to climax and then sweep the entire room of trash away in one motion. It's probably the most satisfying housekeeping you'll ever do digitally. Watching tiles magically appear and walls repaint themselves is oddly satisfying, until you realize a bug prevents you from painting over a specific section of wall. Throw in a few controller issues, unresponsive menus, and a fatal error crash around the 40-minute mark, and suddenly your 5-star resort starts feeling more like a condemned building. Much like a first experience in the bedroom, the game tries, it really does, but by the end, everyone's just pretending to have fun. The premise is sound, the customization options are extensive, and when things actually work, the magic paint and polish mechanics look great on the OLED screen. But between bugs, crashes, and confusing controls, it's like the devs forgot to inspect the hotel before opening it to guests. At least on Steam Deck, this hotel is beyond saving. After hours of chaos and combat from the rest of the bundle, Caravan SandWitch feels like a deep exhale. A calm desert breeze kind of game. The average playtime clocks in at around 9 hours, which feels just right for something built around relaxation rather than rush. Ukulele strings hum softly in the background. The opening track is pure serotonin, and even the sound of soldiers breathing easing after a sprint adds to the zen atmosphere. It's cozy without being dull, like a camping trip where your uncle gets drunk but manages to avoid falling into the fire this time. Exploration unfolds at your own pace. You travel the dunes in your trusty van, hop out to gather components, and slowly piece together tools to disable signal jammers that might lead you to your missing sister. There's no combat, no fall damage, and no stress, just exploration and gentle progression. Everything you can interact with is easy to spot, and once you unlock the scanner, finding materials becomes effortless. It's the kind of design that quietly respects your time, even as it asks you to slow down. Performance on the OLED Steam Deck is smooth, running between 40 and 55 frames per second in handheld, and it looks gorgeous on the screen. Battery life parks in at around 2.5 hours, which is honestly fair given the bright colours and ambient effects, even if it is on the shorter side. It's the kind of game you can comfortably play under the covers until the deck battery fades and you realise the universe just told you it's bedtime. By the end, Caravan SandWitch delivers exactly what it promises. A mellow road trip drenched in atmosphere and sincerity. No combat, no chaos, just exploration and feels. For that, it easily earns the Deck Play Under the Covers award. That's it for this month's games, but is the bundle worth your cash or just plain trash? Before I answer that, if you haven't already, then hit the like button, subscribe, and give my bell a gentle tap. Don't worry, you have my consent. This month's Humble Choice bundle feels like the kind of surprise you get when you open a suspiciously heavy gift box. You brace for disappointment, but it's actually gold inside. The value alone is incredible, easily one of the best deals we've had in a while, and the variety hits every flavour of gamer. You've got post-Soviet horror, gothic vampires, sentient AI meltdowns, and even a cozy van life simulator to recover from it all. Only 1 or 2 titles feels like filler, and even they're more free side salad rather than forgotten leftovers. For Steam Deck players, this month is a no-brainer. It runs well, plays great, and gives you enough range to show off your deck in ways that should probably be illegal. Keep an eye out for the October episode of Humble Talk coming out in the next week or so, where Stealthy Sharon and I dive even deeper into this month's bundle. See you next time, deckheads.